Welcome to the 24th chapter of the book of Numbers. Today is July the 4th, 2019. So if you hear any loud explosions, we're not being attacked here on the Oregon coast, but somebody's shooting off fireworks. And also, I've had a visitor who I've been trying to get rid of for the last couple of days, of a fly. And it's a big one, and he goes buzzing around. It seems like he likes to go wherever I am. So if he comes through here, so be it. I've already had a spider drop down right in front of me here. And I jumped and screamed. I have it on video. I never published it. But so just let you know, these things are going on. It begins in chapter 24. And Balaam, seeing that it is good before the Lord to bless, Israel went not according to the accustomed way to meet with the ones with omens, and he turned back his face to the wilderness. So he's going to be a little bit different. He's not going to do what the other clairvoyants were doing at that time by looking at omens to determine the future, but he's opening up to himself to God. You'd think that this man was a very righteous person, but his ending wasn't so righteous, as we'll find out later. And Balaam, lifting up his eyes, looked down on Israel, encamped by tribes. And Spirit of God came upon him, the pneuma of God. That's pretty amazing, because not too many people had the Spirit of God come upon them, as far as mentioning that in the Old Testament. And here Balaam, a non-Jew, was one. And taking up his parable, he said, "Says Balaam, son of Beor, says the man seeing true, says the one hearing oracles of God, who saw God in a vision in sleep, uncovering his eyes." So he sees these things in a vision, we find out. Now, it must have been quite a vision that he felt like he was talking to God, or he was, but it was in his sleep. So this is apparently how he was able to communicate with God. God communicates with other people in sleep, not always in person. And then he says, "How good are your houses, O Jacob, and your tents, O Israel? As groves shadowing, as parks near a river, and as tents which the Lord pitched, as cedars by waters." Like a beautiful park along a river. And he was showing how Israel, Jacob became Israel, how they are a beautiful sight that's going to be maybe in the future. And then he says in 7, "A man came forth from out of his seed." Now, who is his there? His seed, God or Jacob and Israel. And it says, "And shall dominate many nations. And Gog, his kingdom, shall be raised up high, and his kingdom shall be increased." Now, this is a difficult one right here, this Gog. It has that in a couple of the Greek texts, but in the Apostolic Polyglot, you can see right here, it has psok. It doesn't have Gog. King James has Agog, and the Hebrew has Magog, Agog. So now whoever this is, this kingdom shall be raised up high. Now, if it was Gog, it wouldn't seem like it would be Christ. It would be, to me, could possibly be the beast. But if it didn't have that Gog, then everything here, to me, is sort of a man from out of Jacob, which would be Jesus. He's out of the tribe of Judah, I'm sorry. Jacob, but he's through Jacob in Israel. A man came forth from out of his seed, and shall dominate many nations, and his kingdom shall be increased. God guided him from out of Egypt. Now, Jesus came out of Egypt when he was a baby. Now, God guided him from out of Egypt. Almost sounds like it could be somebody else, could possibly be the beast there. And as the glory of a unicorn to him, with power. Now, he shall eat the nations of his enemies, and will extract the marrow of their thickness, and with his arrows he shall shoot an enemy. That doesn't sound like Jesus to me, and I suppose he comes back in the future and then was talking about to our future today with the different military of the heaven. But this could also be this beast. Lying down he rested as a lion, and as a cub who shall raise him? Powerful being. The one blessing you, they are blessed, and the one cursing you, they are cursed. Now here, is he talking about the beast, or is he just going back over to Israel, Jacob? But in whatever it was, and Balak was enraged at Balaam, and struck together his hands, like, "What are you doing?" And Balak said to Balaam, "To imprecate maledictions upon my enemies, I have called you, and behold, with a blessing, you've blessed him this third time." When 2 times in the last chapter. "Now then, flee unto your place. I said I will esteem you, but now the Lord deprived you of the glory." Now we have Balak mentioning the name of the Lord, which is, I doubt very much if he knew this is a name. It's more of a title of the God. And Balaam said to Balak, even though it's a tetragrammaton there, because the capital Lord shows that. And Balaam said to Barak, "Well, did I not also speak to your messengers whom you sent to me, saying, if Balak should give to me his house full of silver and gold, I shall not be able to violate the word of the Lord, to do it good or bad by myself. As many things as God should say to me, these things I shall speak. And now, behold, I run to my place. Come, I will advise you what this people will do with your people in the last of the days." So now he's going in the last of the days. I believe this is in the future to us. The eschaton, eschatology is a derivative. It's interesting. Now he sees something far in the future, and taking up his parable, he said, says Balaam, son of Beor, says the man seeing true, in hearing oracles of God, having knowledge of higher knowledge by the highest, and seeing a vision of God in sleep, uncovering his eyes. I will show to him, but not now. I bless, and he approaches not. A star shall rise from out of Jacob. Now, from Jacob, he was the father of the 12 tribes, so it could be anybody from any of the 12 tribes. And a man shall rise up from out of Israel, and he shall devastate the heads of Moab, and he shall despoil all the sons of Sheth. And Edom shall be an inheritance, and Esau his enemy shall be an inheritance. And Israel acted in strength. So, now if this is in the future, some type of a star will rise from out of Jacob. A man is the star. Now, exactly who this is, it doesn't say, but and one shall be awakened from out of Jacob, and shall destroy the ones escaping from out of the city. Now, what city we're talking about here, that's a question also. And then he changes, and having seen Amalek, and taking up his parable, he said, so now God tells him about Amalek. Amalek was the first nation to come against Israel at Rephidim, Exodus 17, 8-16. This is where it talks about whenever Moses lifted up his hands and the children, the sons of Israel, defeated the Amalek, and he lowered them and went the other way, and finally Joseph and somebody else held up his hands, so they defeated Amalek. And then at the end of that, God says, "For as ointment I will wipe away the memory of Amalek from under heaven." So Amalek, so God says he's going to wipe away the memory. Well, Amalek was still around during the time of Saul. He struck the Amalekites, and he came to the Kenites, who we'll go to next, and told them about his going against the Amalekites, and the Kenites separated from Amalek. So these people were all there in someplace in Canaan area. "The head of nations is Amalek, and his seed shall perish." So I believe this is the beast and the ones that are against Israel, basically. And having seen the Kenite, and the Kenite, first one mentioned is basically Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses. He was a Kenite. And then later, Deborah, Deborah, the judge, rose up against Sisera, and Jael, a woman, the wife of Heber the Kenite from Hamath, had a tent, and Sisera came in there and she covered him up, and then she struck a stake through his temple and he died. And so the Kenite was in that area. And he said, "Your dwelling is strong, and if you should put your nest in a rock, and if it be to Beor, a nest of astuteness, the Assyrians shall capture you." So the Kenites will be captured. And taking up his parable, he said, Oh, who shall live whenever God should appoint these things? Sounds like it could be a far time in the future. "And one shall come forth from out of the hands of the Kitteon," the Chittim. The Chittim, they were islands, because it mentions in other places that they were islands. They brought wood, cedar, timbers from Chittim. Islands probably have to be in the Mediterranean, somewhere maybe off of Turkey, off of Africa maybe. I'm sure other people have come up with different types of possibilities, but the Bible really doesn't lay it out that well. "And they shall afflict Assyria, and they shall afflict Hebrews, and they with one accord shall perish." Now, attacking Assyria and then the Hebrews was more of Nebuchadnezzar. And I'm not sure of any islands attacking Assyria. Alexander came from Greece, but he didn't attack as such. It was called, maybe it was called Assyria then, I'm not sure. "And they shall afflict Hebrews, and they with one accord shall perish." So the Chittim. And it's mentioned in Daniel 11:30 as the kings of the north and the south, and the Chittim are involved in that. And you can read that in that chapter 11 of Daniel. "And Balaam rising up went forth into his place, and Balak went forth to his own." So they separated. Next chapter, Israel fornicates to Baal Peor. So we'll find out what this all is about. Chapter 25, next seminar. Hope you'll join us. And until then, God bless.